So they weren't cutting corners. Unfortunately, maybe somebody else cut a corner on their behalf, right? And then they don't have an investment or an instrument that aligns with what they were hoping to do. Or maybe somebody thought, oh, hey, this will help you get there faster, but it really wasn't a good fit.
Welcome to the Your Life, Your Money podcast with Scott Sierens, teaching you how to thrive in life, wealth, and retirement.
Glad to have you back on Your Life, Your Money. We are glad to have you today on the show. We're going to be talking about something we probably all need help with in life, Scott. Cutting corners. Whether we do it in our finances or with our exercising or with whatever, we're all kind of guilty of this at some point, aren't we? Yeah,
and I think I go back to kind of something my dad always told me. He said, hey, if you're going to do a job, do it right. And, that's tough to live by, right? I mean, like you said, whether it's our finances or just even going to the gym, sometimes we find some ways to start cutting corners.
Yeah, and when you do it financially, it can really hurt you over the long term. So that's what we want you to kind of pay attention to, and want to kind of talk you through today on the show. We've got a few different areas where people commonly decide they're going to save a little bit of time and maybe save a little energy in their financial planning, but might not be the best for your results over the long term. So looking forward to that today on the show. If you want to, you can check out all of the podcasts we have, plus video content that Scott produces. You can find that at lifemoneyshow.com, plus blogs. A lot of great information there. It's kind of a hub for everything that Scott does over at Sierens Financial Group. So make sure you check that out. Again, lifemoneyshow.com. Scott, I've been paying attention, obviously, to the news. I know we both do quite a bit. And, it's pretty remarkable how many people have been leaving their jobs, for whatever reason. There just seems to be so many job openings out there, which has really created this interesting dynamic in our economy right now. But, apart from actually what's happening, I was thinking back to the first job that I had, which was working at a place called the Bagel Factory, which was actually, as it sounds, a bagel shop.
Really?
In Birmingham, Alabama, where I would help make the bagels. We'd shape them and cook them and serve the front counter. So what was your first job?
Well, my first job was actually in concrete construction. I was, I guess you could part of a construction team where we were doing foundations for houses. We were doing driveways, patios, concrete floors, but really, that start to a new house, right? Putting that foundation in. So a lot of hard work. I think that's where I'll call it early mornings still come from. So when I was working there, there was days, you're getting up at 5:30 a.m. in the heat of the summer. We were trying to really get out there and get to work to beat that summer heat. And I think that's always stuck with me. I continue to get up really early in the morning still. But so that was my first job. And I guess, that kind of relates into what we're talking about today too, right? So cutting corners, what we were putting in for, a person's house, if we were to cut corners on that foundation, the rest of the house could fall apart. And that goes for, every piece and part of building the house. If we do the foundation right, but then the framers come in and they're putting up the walls and they decide to cut corners, next thing you know, that can impact the drywall that goes up and the picture that you're hanging on the wall. So it's amazing how cutting one corner could definitely have a trickle down effect. But yeah, that was my first job. It was definitely a tough job. I learned a lot there in regards to just the overall construction of a home. Probably why I use a lot of building analogies as we, go through everything in our podcast and discussion of finances.
How old were you when you had that job?
16.
Wow.
I actually, I might have started at 15. 15 or 16 years old.
Yeah. That's pretty heavy work to be doing at that age.
That was my summer preparation for football every year.
I got you. Yeah, that'll get you in shape. My first job was around, I think it was 15. I guess that was as early as we could work. I can't really remember, but it was as early as I could. I got a job, and while I was indoors in the AC, very opposite of you, I shortly transitioned from that point to where I did a lot of outdoor work, where we did a lot of landscaping on houses and on the golf course and that sort of thing, and that outdoors in the summer in Alabama and it's 95 degrees and humid will also put a wear on you. So I respect anybody that does that manual labor for sure.
It's same here. When I'm driving down the road or, in my neighborhood and you see people doing concrete construction or working on the roofs or, any of that manual labor, takes a lot of work, effort, and it definitely takes a toll on the body as well.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting, just tying it back into what's going on right now. There's a lot of people that it's a good time, I guess, to be someone looking for their first job. There's probably a lot of opportunity out there right now.
I believe there's lots of great opportunity. And, for those that are looking and I know we've had this discussion before too. I mean, for those, if you're at a job where you're not 100% happy, maybe now's that opportunity to, take a look around and, get yourself into a job that you're going to enjoy.
That's a good point as well.
I think that there's opportunity out there. Just driving down the road, you just see, job opportunity signs, job opening signs, everywhere, and continue to hear about it in the news. So lots of opportunity out there.
Yeah, we definitely are at an interesting time in our country right now. So also very interested always to hear what people's first jobs was. It's always cool to hear that story. So thanks for sharing yours.
You as well. Thank you.
Let's jump into our conversation today, Scott, the cutting the corners and, kind of tying it back into what you said. It can have a big trickle down, with decisions later in life, but also just with your habits too. I think a lot of times if you start cutting the corners early, it can kind of spill over into other areas as well. So we want to make sure you're kind of aware of some of these areas in your financial plan where it could be easy to cut corners, but it's not always the best idea. Let's start with getting organized, Scott. I know it takes time to be kind of detailed and to stay on top of things in terms of staying organized and know where your accounts are, where your passwords are, all these different types of things. But when you cut the corner and decide, hey, I'm just gonna either put this off or hey, I don't have to be really organized with this one. This one can kind of wait. How can this get you in trouble?
Yeah, I think it can get you in trouble because then are your finances, but kind of trickling that down, and we'll talk about this in a few of our other points, but are your finances, meaning like your investments, different maybe products that you have, does that really align with what you're trying to achieve? A few analogies here, and I think it's really amazing in our lives that if we want to go on a vacation, right, we'll spend a lot of time organizing and preparing for that vacation so it goes off, great. Mentioned earlier, building a house, right? What's the first thing you do is you create that plan, you put together that blueprint, and then you get organized around that plan. But it's, it always, I'll say, amazes me, but I get it. Like, for some reason, sometimes finances is that thing that people just want to keep putting to the side and not necessarily get organized. But, when it comes to your financial future, do you have a plan, and are you organized around that plan? A lot of times I find that people have what I'll call as like the junk drawer of accounts and products and investments, meaning just over time they've accumulated different things, different stocks, bonds, different investments, different accounts, even maybe different products. And while those might have been right when they got them, are those actually right for you today and for where you're going? And, as you're saying, I think organization is key to avoid some trickle-down effects. And part of that organization is really listing out, what are your targets? Could be, when do you want to retire? Maybe you want a second home. Are you trying to help pay for, kids or grandkids' college education? Do you want to go on a specific vacation? Or when are you just trying to achieve financial independence? And I find that, once you really have your targets down, then you can start to get organized around those targets. You can start to organize your assets, your investments. Everything can really then start to be targeted towards what you're trying to achieve. But without those targets, you're, really just kind of going in life, I guess, right? You're not sure, hey, am I, saving towards a retirement at 62 or 65 or 70? You're not sure what path you're on. And so I think that organization really not only helps a person determine that path, but then get the assets organized to help you achieve that path. And I find, for some people, and I'm not sure why, but I've had this in some other areas of my life where it's like this fear of actually writing it down, like this fear of putting that target on paper. And I don't know if it's maybe a fear because you're like, well, if I write it down, and you just don't want to kind of like almost like self-disappointment, right? Well, what if I can't achieve it? But here's the deal. If you don't ever write it down, if you don't think about it, if you don't try to achieve it, you would never know. And so I think that's a big part of, what we're doing in our process with our clients is actually sitting down, putting those goals on paper, putting those targets on paper. Once we see them on paper, we can organize the assets to determine, hey, can we hit these goals and targets, or what do we need to do? What do we need to update to achieve what those goals might be?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And to your point about, putting it down on paper, that can kind of be a hurdle maybe mentally for a lot of people. And, it kind of ties into our next one. And those are legal documents, a place that many people cut corners on are getting those legal documents in order because, there's many different reasons for it. Obviously it's not exciting, right? It takes up a lot of time to do these things, but also you have to think about things that maybe you don't want to think about, but this is not a place where you want to cut corners.
You're correct, Ben. I mean, cutting corners here, it could mean that, a person, if something were to happen, a person or the beneficiaries then could sit in probate. Probate is a costly and a timely process. Could mean that a person's going to pay unnecessary estate taxes. Cutting corners could mean that you don't have anybody to help you pay the bills in the event that you needed them. Or it could mean that, you don't have anybody to help you make medical decisions. So I thought we'd just take a second here and talk about some of the key documents to have in place. I would say, one, you want to have a will in place. The second would be a medical power of attorney. So if something were to happen to you where you're not able to make decisions on your own, then someone could help make medical decisions for you. Same thing, the next document would be a financial power of attorney, or sometimes they call it a property power of attorney. And that's so, again, let's just say something happens to you, you're in a hospital, you're not able to, do things on your own. Well, now that provides the ability for whomever you've named that person can help pay your bills. They can, write checks for your rent or your mortgage or whatever needs to be taken care of from a financial standpoint. They can help you stay on top of that, because think about without that, right? You can see how quickly, if you were, just in the hospital for a month or 2 months or 3 months, how quickly everything could back up. And then next thing you know, you've got, past due notices and people wondering, if they're going to get paid and shutting things down. And so you don't want that. You want to be able to make sure that you can take care of everything. HIPAA documents are important as well. That's a tough one to get out. And then I think the last one, and I put a question mark next to this because it's not necessarily for everybody, but you do want to at least sit down and determine whether or not, or I'll say a state needs a trust in place. And not everybody needs a trust, but if you do have maybe some specifics in your family that, you want to make sure things financially flow in a direction like you would like them to, or maybe you just have a more complicated estate with a lot of different pieces of property, whatever it might be, you may need to introduce a trust into your overall estate plan. But I'd really sit down with an attorney to talk about that one to determine if it's fully necessary. A lot of times, and it depends what state you live in, some states, that's kind of the only way to pass on property without it going through probate. But there's also some states where you can actually list beneficiaries on your property, meaning your home. So you could list beneficiaries on your home. And so if if something were to happen to you, then your home would pass right on to your beneficiaries. You wouldn't have to worry about probate, and a trust wouldn't be necessary. So that one's where I kind of put the question mark to it, because that last one there is really dependent on everybody's situation.
Well, I'm glad you shared that because I know we throw around legal documents all the time, but what specifically is that? A lot of people might just not even be aware of everything that includes. So I think that's very helpful. All right, let's talk about risk, Scott, in investing. Tell me about how people cut corners when it comes to risk. When you say people are taking too much risk, how is that cutting corners?
Yeah, I find that sometimes people are taking on too much risk, and I'm going to focus here on this point in regards to their investments. And a lot of times it can be because of one of two emotions. Emotion number one could be, hey, I haven't saved enough and I really feel like I need to make up for it and catch up. So I'm just going to take on a ton of risk in my investments and hope for a ton of growth. And the other one is the other emotion really that kicks in is greed, right? So if we're on a bull market like we are today, that sometimes greed can kick in and then people are taking on too much risk in their portfolios. I think it's just important to take some time, sit back and make sure, does your portfolio align with your needs, with your upcoming income needs? If you have anything coming up, within the next few years, do you have that, sitting on the safer side of your portfolio? Do you have that sitting in your bank account or your checking account? But, taking on too much risk and not having those funds sitting on the safer side of things, next thing you know, you've put money that you might specifically need at risk. And then let's say we have another 40% downturn in the market. Now, all of a sudden, that money that you needed, you've lost almost half of it. And it's not there for what your need is. And a lot of times, like I mentioned, that's just because people are cutting corners. They're thinking, oh, nope, not going to happen to me. Everything's been so good. Or they're just trying to make up for not saving enough. So we got to be very careful there. We want to make sure that the portfolio aligns with your needs and what's coming up in your life.
So yes, like cutting the corners, essentially like taking the easy way out, right? Instead of like taking that long-term approach to investing where you're kind of managing your risk and just trying to build slowly. It's how I'm going to take more risk to try to hit a home run and avoid like the actual process itself.
That's a great point. You nailed it, right? Trying to hit the home run versus going through the process and making sure that the portfolio aligns with your long-term plan.
All right. How about sticking with investing? Let's talk a little bit about the details of your investments. It's very easy to take the advice of someone, Scott, or your friend said, "Hey, man, I got a great stock tip for you. You're not gonna want to miss out," and you just kind of jump into it without doing a lot of research. Or beyond that, even if you're just kind of picking out mutual funds, maybe in a 401k, and you don't know everything that's inside the mutual fund or the fees or all this stuff, ignoring those details of your investments and where your money's actually going is not a corner that you want to cut.
You've brought up two really good examples, and I think this one in cutting corners is not necessarily always the consumer's fault, right? So sometimes people have been, I'll call it, sold something that might not necessarily fit their long-term plan. So they weren't cutting corners. Unfortunately, maybe somebody else cut a corner on their behalf, right? And then they don't have an investment or an instrument that aligns with what they were hoping to do. Or maybe somebody thought, oh, hey, this will help you get there faster, but it really wasn't a good fit. The other is like you said, you might think that you've got this mutual fund that if you're looking at the performance history of it, boy, this thing did great. Of course, past performance doesn't guarantee future results. And then have you looked at the fees that might be, the underlying fees, the expense ratio that might be in those mutual funds that you have. And so while we might think, hey, on one side we're, getting some great performance or some ultimate tool, you have to be aware of the other side, which are the fees that might be in those tools. And then all of those fees can add up. And next thing you know, you're not getting to where you were hoping to get. A few examples is, there's some annuities out there that have some pretty high fees associated to them. There's a whole lot of different annuities. I'm not saying that they're good and bad. I'm just saying you have to be aware of the fees and then do the options on your annuities, like the riders. do those align with what your future goals are? Some people have annuities with an income rider because they want that lifetime income, that pension-like income. And then I find that some people have them because unfortunately they were, sold a bill of goods, but it doesn't align with what their goals were. And it was kind of sold as this cutting the corner that, based on this performance or growth, you'll get there faster. And then like you mentioned and we talked about, was just being aware of what kind of fees are in your overall funds, the expense ratios and the investments that you have. While performance is something, yes, that you want to pay attention to, you also want to pay attention to the fees that you have in the overall funds.
Yeah, you want to always know what you're getting involved in and why you're investing in that. And that's, again, why you work with an advisor to help you sort those things out, because it can be confusing in many respects. All right, last one on our list here to get to today is long-term care. It kind of ties into the earlier discussion on legal documents and just in areas that we don't really want to think about necessarily all the time. And this is one we easily can set aside and put off for later. Until it actually affects you personally. Do you realize how important it is to approach this now and get it under control and have a plan for how you're going to handle it?
Yeah, Ben, this is an important one. Cutting the corner here, I've seen a whole lot of different statistics, and some statistics saying 75% of people will need some form of long-term care support. So that could be, walking from room to room. It could be going to the bathroom. It could be, just cooking yourself dinner, or at some point in life, who's going to clean your home. And here's where the cutting the corner comes in. A lot of people think that they'll be in the 25% group that does not need any sort of long-term care support. I would say average, and this is just estimated cost of a home care facility, could be anywhere from, or home care, not facility, let's say home health care, could be anywhere between like $50,000, $60,000 a year. I've seen where nursing homes can be $90,000 a year, $100,000 a year, or even more. So cutting the corner here is not having the discussion about it, not thinking about it. And then let's just say you did need long-term care. Next thing you know, you're paying, if you're in a nursing home, you could be paying $100,000 a year out of your estate straight to that nursing home facility. So now, if it was important for you to protect your investments, to protect your assets, unfortunately, you're going to see it flow out of your estate pretty fast for this long-term care support. The other thing that you had mentioned was kind of, the thought process on this, not having that discussion. And when it comes to like long-term care protection insurance, premiums go up as age goes up. And so, that's something you have to be aware of too. If you decide to say, I'm just going to keep pushing this off year by year, you have to understand that each year that you do push off that discussion, your premiums are going up. And then the other thing to be aware of is that if your health were to change, you may no longer qualify for a long-term care policy and plan. And so it's based on your health. They pull your medical records. And, again, putting that discussion off, delaying that discussion, I've unfortunately seen where people who then finally decided to sit down and have those discussions and decided, wait a second, what if I'm part of that 75% of people that need long-term care support and I want to protect my assets? Unfortunately, they waited too long. Their health had changed and they no longer qualified for long-term care support. So my recommendation is to always do it while you're youngest and healthiest. A lot of times people ask me, when is that right age to start looking at it? And I think that, maybe kind of starting at age 55 is a good age to start having the discussions. I see a lot of people get really serious about it in their early 60s.
Yeah, make it a point to have that discussion and talk through what your options are and be getting a plan together for that, because it can be a big problem later in life if you don't have it accounted for, which all these things can be as well, which is why, again, we wanted to have this discussion on cutting corners and why you need to stop doing that in some specific areas of your planning. And again, we're all guilty of it, right? It's not a lecture. It's more of like, hey, let's help you get on the right track for your financial plan. And that's what you try to help people with all the time, Scott, and why you work with an advisor, right? To make sure you have that process where you can follow it step by step and not feel like you have to cut corners in order to maybe get to the front of the line.
Absolutely. I find when, you have kind of somebody else sitting in your corner, it's kind of then really opening up those discussions, having those discussions that you might have otherwise organized, and having somebody there that can tell you the pros and cons of each of the different decisions that you need to make, so that way you can make decisions that are in your best interest.
Well, if you want to talk with Scott further on any of these topics, these items that we discussed today, or anything else with your financial plan, please reach out to him. You can go to lifemoneyshow.com, or you can call him at 847-235-6989, and he'll be happy to help you out with any questions you might have and get you started on that Retirement 360 blueprint process. Again, everything we do here on the podcast, plus what Scott does with his YouTube channel, can all be found there at lifemoneyshow.com. All right, Scott, enjoyed it. I'll be looking out for those people putting the concrete, pouring the concrete and laying the foundations, and thinking about you as a 15 or 16-year-old doing that hard work growing up.
Hey, same. Next time I go and grab a bagel, you're on my mind.
There you go. Well, I enjoyed talking to you. Look forward to talking to you again soon.
Thanks for the great conversation.
Sierens Financial Group is an independent financial services firm that utilizes a variety of investment and insurance products. Investment advisory services offered only by duly registered individuals through AE Wealth Management, LLC. AE Wealth Management and Sierens Financial Group, Inc. are not affiliated companies. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. Any references to protection, safety, or lifetime income generally refer to fixed insurance products, never securities or investments. Insurance guarantees are backed by the financial strength and claims-paying abilities of the issuing carrier. This podcast is intended for informational purposes only. It is not intended to be used as the sole basis for financial decisions, nor should it be construed as advice designed to meet the particular needs of an individual's situation. Sierens Financial Group, Inc. is not permitted to offer, and no statement made during this show shall constitute tax or legal advice. Our firm is not affiliated with or endorsed by the U.S. government or any governmental agency. The information and opinions contained herein, provided by third parties, have been obtained from sources believed to be reliable, but accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed by Sierens Financial Group, Inc.